You know what I think we should normalize more on social media? Is being broke as fuck.
We millennials are gradually becoming the most broke generation. Like, we are even becoming broke than our parents. And the frustrating part is we did everything right. And when it got to our turn, they flipped the whole game board on us. And we can now barely even stand on our feet. We are living from paycheck to paycheck, which is frustrating. Hi besties, welcome back to the channel. Do not forget to give this video a thumbs up. Do not forget to subscribe to this channel. Drop your thoughts and your experiences in the comment section.
Like, I am a millennial. I am in my 30s. I don't make enough to pay my rent. Nope, can't do it. I require the help from my parents. I also don't pay my own phone bill because, yet again, that's something that I can't afford. I am extremely fortunate enough to have parents who are willing to help me because I know that there's so many people in my situation at my age that don't have that and still can't pay their bills. I have a job. I have multiple jobs. I work for a company at 2 different locations, and I work pretty much any moment that I don't have my children. It is a minimum wage job because I was a stay-at-home mom for 10 years, never got a college degree, really have no skills with anything. No workplace skills, so I'm starting at the bottom. I work with high schoolers. It is a high school job. I scoop ice cream and make popcorn. I'm also a barista at the other location. I work Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Saturdays I always have off because that is my only day with my kids. I refuse to work on that day because I need one day to spend with my kids. Like one full day because they're not in school. On Tuesdays, I work for my dad as a handyman, or I do house cleaning. Because working 5 days a week, minimum wage, is just barely able to cover my rent. Not even able to cover my rent. That doesn't even include my utilities. Rent is extremely high where I live. And I can't move somewhere cheaper because my kid's dad lives here and we have 50-50 custody. Now, another one of my jobs is doing this. I create content. I don't make much money. The only reason why I would make money on here is if one of my videos happens to go like viral, like a couple million views. Then I might make maybe a couple $100, maybe. Right now, with how my views are, it's maybe $50 a month, if that. Last month, I think it was 20. Because I don't have as much time as I used to devote to creating creative content. And now that stop doing their I don't make anything from that either. Now, why am I saying all of this? It's not to complain. I'm not complaining. I'm actually very fortunate. I'm fortunate enough to be able to live in the apartment that I'm in because of the people around me who are wanting to help me. But I am talking about this because I think that it's something we don't hear a whole lot on the internet, on social media. When I scroll through TikTok, I see these influencers who are living ridiculously lavish lives, at least compared to me and how I live, very lavish lifestyles. And you know what? I love that. I love that for them. There's a lot of money to be made out there doing content creation, just on the internet in general. And they've obviously worked really hard to get to that point in their life where they can live that way. But I'm not there. And I think a lot of people are not there. And I just think it's something that should be talked about more and should be normalized, especially people my age. We grew up thinking that when you're in your 30s, you get your shit together. Like that's when you have your whole life put together. But that's not how it is. I don't have my shit together. My goal is not to own a house or drive a fancy car. My goal is to pay rent. I had the house and the car and everything. But after I got divorced, I decided to give that up and start my life over. And so now I'm living like I'm in my 20s. But I know that there are a lot of people in their 30s who are not making it, who are living with their parents again. That was actually something that I was considering doing for a while, is moving back home with my mom. And that's not something I want to do because I feel like that's such a giant step backwards, but it's something that needs to be normalized because so many people my age are living back at home because our parents own a house because they were able to buy a house way back then. We can't do that. We can't buy a house. I don't see myself ever buying a house. So anyway, all of this to say, if you are struggling financially, if you feel like you're 1,000 steps behind the rest of the world, maybe this will help you just not feel so alone. And if you are struggling, comment so that I don't feel so alone, because maybe this is just therapy for me. I don't know. Anyway, I hope you have a great day and things look up for you.
You know, I'm a millennial who grew up hearing that if you went to school, if you got a good job, and you stop eating avocado toast and buying coffee every day, that you will be able to afford a middle-class lifestyle. And I'm talking about like maybe owning a home and vacations and things like that. I don't buy coffee. I don't buy avocado toast. I only eat out maybe once a month, sometimes twice. And by that, I mean that I go to a taco truck in the corner. And I'm still broke AF. I'm getting my stuff ready to go to my taxes tomorrow. And this is the most money that I ever made in my life. I've never made this much money before. But you couldn't tell because I'm still living paycheck to paycheck. And I have a budget. We have one car in my family. We don't go on vacations. Again, I eat out maybe once, sometimes twice, if we go to a taco truck and maybe to like a mom and pop's restaurant close to us. I go to Target once a month for the essentials, and sometimes I throw in like a $5 thing for my daughter so she can play with, and an extra big box of Cheez-Its for my son, and those are like little luxuries for the month. I don't have student loans. I don't go crazy buying things that I don't need. It's very frustrating, and I know how to survive with little because I grew up with almost nothing, so I know how to stretch $1. For example, today we ate enfrijoladas because we cut meat out of our grocery budget because we just couldn't afford to buy a bunch of meat. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, I worked a lot this past year to make this much money. And I have nothing to show because I'm feeling just as broke as I did when I was 19 working as a waitress. Okay, rant over.
Most millennials are significantly worse off than their parents were at their age. The numbers are actually really shocking. The cost of college education over the last 40 years has increased over 1,000%. But real wage, which is wage that accounts for inflation, has barely budged over that 40-year period. I'm Sammy. I cover lots of career and work-life content, so follow along for more of this. It's not just college that's expensive for millennials. There's the soaring cost of housing, declining wages, and crippling student debt. It's almost as if the system is built so that the younger generations would be in debt for the rest of their lives. In fact, about 14% of millennials had negative net worth by 35, which means their debts outweighed their assets. Gen Z is freaking out about money too. 38% of female Gen Zers say they're financially underwater or barely scraping by. I'm no expert, but at the very least, I think we can agree that the college education system needs to be overhauled, and also we need higher wages in corporate America. Follow along for more unfiltered career content.
Inflation is down. Why do I still feel broke? I'm going to explain this very quickly. From the year 2000 to 2020, in that 20-year span, the average increase in inflation every year was about 2.1%. Rent was going up about 3%, housing was going up about 5%, and wages were going up around 2.5%. Everything was kind of even in the world. That's why there was no whiny millennials, because we could rent, buy food, and even buy a house on a $45,000 to $50,000 salary. But what happened? The pandemic happened. And from the year 21 to 23, the total inflation went up 19%, rent went up 30%, the cost of buying a house went up 40%, and wages only went up 16.8%. Now, there is a group of the middle class still surviving this. Those who bought a house before 2020. So when the housing went up 40%, their net worth went up 40%, and they don't give a shit about the 30% increase in rent because they're not renting. But the 100 million to 150 million Americans renting got smashed with a 20% increase in housing. So even though inflation is back down to 2.5%, rent's going up at 3%, housing's going up at 4%, and wages are going up at around 4% right now, it doesn't make up for the massive 20 to 30% hit, pay cut, if you will, that the millennials and Gen Zs who are renting took or who are trying to buy a house.
Does Gen Z actually have it worse than millennials financially? The data may point to yes. specifically because Gen Z is spending more on necessities than millennials did. Gen Z is spending more on housing and vehicle insurance than millennials, and even after accounting for inflation and higher incomes, Gen Z has more debt. Roughly 1 in 7 Gen Zers are maxed out on their credit cards. Even though Gen Z workers are more likely to go to college, more likely to have a job, and make more money than millennials did, they are paying more than 31% for housing than their millennial counterparts did at their age. This chart shows inflation-adjusted change for 16 to 24-year-olds. If you thought grocery prices were bad, look at housing and insurance.
I have something to say. So boomers constantly say that millennials and Gen Z don't want to work. And that's not the case. It's not that we don't want to work. It's the fact that we are working our ass off and we're not seeing any of that work pay off. We're putting the hours in. We're showing up and doing the job. But there are no incentives. There are no guaranteed benefits. There is no sense of company morale. You just literally feel like a cog in the machine. On top of that, back in the days when they were working, they knew if they saved up a couple of checks, that can get them a house. We are barely able to pay our rent. And on top of that, there's one more thing I don't think we speak about when it comes to millennials and Gen Z, when it comes to being in the workforce. We are collectively burnt out. There is a lot of mental load and a lot of mental gymnastics that we are constantly partaking in. Because at one point in time, working was thoughtless. Do you see what I'm saying? You did your job, you went home. And when you went home, you knew the job was able to pay for your lifestyle. Of course, they'll try to chalk that lifestyle up to us drinking lattes and eating avocado toast. But with all the work that I'm doing, I should at least be able to drink a latte and get some fucking avocado toast. There's a lot of work being done and not a lot of return for the work that's being done. Financial planning right now, given the current state of the economy, given the current state of the job market, feels impossible to some people. There are some people that are ahead the curve, and I'm very proud for them. But the majority, they're not. There are people that are one paycheck away from being homeless. So it kind of comes back to that main point. Boomers think that we don't want to work. But I think as a millennial person myself, we've entered a state of nihilism. A very big sense of what the fuck is the point? What is the point of doing all the work if I know at the end of the day that the work that I'm doing is not chipping away at that huge student loan debt, that it's not giving me the capital to invest in a home, that I can't even pay my health insurance bills. At one point in time, work was beneficial for the people that were doing it. And now we're doing the work and we're not seeing any benefit. And then when you're not seeing any benefit for all the work that you do, you end up being burnt out. Anxiety and depression creeps in, and doing something so small seems like such a big task because you are exhausted. And then when you speak about these things to boomers, it all comes down to pulling yourself up by your bootstraps. But a lot of us can't even afford the fucking boots.
So why are millennials burning out at record pace? Well, it's because y'all told us all we had to do was get the good grades and work really, really hard, and we too could have the American dream. But yet here we are in our mid to late 30s, still trying to pay off that student loan debt for the college degree that we no longer use. We can't afford to buy a house, let alone save for retirement. But the good news is we're not going to be able to retire anyway, so what's the point? And there's also this whole idea too that, like, we are programmed to believe that our worth comes from our level of productivity, and so we've kind of created this subconscious addiction to stress. We wear stress as an honor badge to show off our enoughness and get the validation and approval from our parents and our coworkers in society. And even though we're making far more than our parents ever did at our age, somehow the cost of living still far exceeds the increase in wages. But between like late stage capitalism, alien invasions, and World War III, something's got to change pretty soon, right? So yeah, we're a little bit tired, but luckily we've got our favorite vacation place that we go to. It's called Dissociation Nation, where we all come together and share our dark humor and sarcasm and 90s nostalgia as a way to, get by.
I believe one of the reasons why we millennials are broke, why we are struggling financially, is we were never taught financial education, not even at home or in school. We were never taught. And we were told, all we were told was, you should go to school, get good education, come out, then you look for like a good job, you get a good job, you can provide for yourself, provide for your family, at least you can live an average life or live a good life. But when we got out of school, there are no jobs. And a lot of people went to school with student loan. How do you pay back? You're basically starting your life on debts. There are no good jobs out there. And if you finally even struggle to get a job, you can barely pay back the school loan and take care of yourself at the same time. Cost of living is expensive. I don't know what to say. Like, we were never taught a lot of things. We were not taught a lot of things. I believe With everything going on, you believe they lied to us. We were deceived. You got all the certificates, you got everything ready. There are no jobs, there are no good jobs. Even if you get a good job, you work with somebody that is talking down at you, like making you feel terrible of yourself. Like you're tired, you don't even know what to do. You live from paycheck to paycheck, you can barely feed your family. I hope things get better. Like, I hope things get better for all of us, not just millennials, for everybody. I hope things get better for us. So, besties, we have come to the end of the video. Please do take care of yourself. Please do take care of yourself. Love yourself. Put yourself first. I will always say that. Take care of yourself. And please do not forget to subscribe to the channel. Please help me grow the channel and give this video a thumbs up. Drop your thoughts and views in the comment section. I love you guys. Bye.